Vexite was recently added to Order in place of Alistair, a strong rifle player whose addition has seen the AWP duties be shifted back to Rick. This POV analysis comes from Vexite's debut in their opening ESEA Premier match against Silix. Vexite had a strong performance, and whilst it was against lower opposition, I feel that there is still so much to unpack in what Vexite brings to the squad, how he's being used, and in what ways he can be utilised in the future within this squad. His ability to take advantage of mistakes from the enemy and punish utility is clear. Complemented by a system of controlled aggression within Order, this allows Vexite to strike where it hurts and lock rounds down for his team. His positioning as a player in situations is always off the best available information, and where possible playing off his teammates. Altogether, this creates a player who is very versatile, and we will unpack this now with some rounds from the match itself. We'll start with the first map, Mirage, and after dropping the pistol, Order force into the next round. As we'll see the T's begin to execute on the A site, Vexite is able to take advantage of a failed stairs smoke. This allows him to push aggressively into the stairs position and claim 2 kills on the unaware T's. We'll jump into this round on Nuke, where Vexite again can be seen constantly punishing the enemy for these positions where the util is lacking or that there is a gap that he can punish. While it might not always lead to kills or rounds, it is such an annoyance for these enemy squads who constantly have to keep in mind where they may be, where the enemies are, where Vexite might be, and where there are gaps in all of their holds. The best example of this in this series comes from round 19, where in a post-plant situation towards A on Mirage, Order hold really good spots in the 3v3. Unfortunately, Gyra gets dropped towards jungle, and Silix begin to put the pressure on. While Vexite is able to get a kill on an approaching CT player, Rick and Vexite have to take their chances with the duels in order to break the Silix crossfire. A failed incendiary towards A main actually creates an opportunity to break the crossfire and have a free shot onto the defusing player. While Rick is killed from the stairs player, Vexite is in such a good post-plan position off this simple play that he's converts it into a round win for his team. Again, we have the same round here in a top-down view, but you can really see clearly where Vexite plants this bomb and where he decides to go in the post-plant situation and what sort of positions Order hold. Gyra here is in the jungle, while the other two are sort of holding back towards Pal and main with potential for the crossfire once Gyra goes down here. Of course, you've got Rick with the stairs line into jungle, and he's holding that way across the side, and Vexite has the X across. That's the first player he kills towards Ticket, which puts it into the 2v2. This is the failed Molotov that comes in and is what Vexite is able to take advantage of. This lets him swing onto the defusing player, as he does not know that Vexite can just push past this molly. And while Rick does die to the approaching stairs player, the crossfire has already been broken and the CTs cannot defuse the bomb. Controlled aggression enables Order and Vexite to play higher risk situations with higher rewards. It is possible to set these plays up in order to reduce the risk, but allow the opportunity to remain. This is a very simple example that demonstrates this fact of Vexite going for aggressive plays around what his team is doing. So not necessarily everyone being aggressive, but he takes initiative in these rounds to try and open up the round. The inherent risk of these plays is that they might not always work, as we see in that round, but in this round, in a post-plant situation, you can see the Order players stay on the site to hold it, whereas Vexite is given the space and the potential to go and be aggressive on the map and further secure the round. Should he die, it's not necessarily a massive loss, but should he win, it is really beneficial for the team and really cements the round. Once again, I believe this is a round that is really interesting from the 2D perspective, where you can see Ustillo stays on the site with the other Order players as they plant, and in the post-plant situation, Vexite pushes into Order with the rest of his team staying behind. This is an example of controlled aggression. Vexite is going to come up and kill this player while his team knows that Vexite is on the extremities looking for damage, looking for the play to make. Therefore, I think it must be said that these plays are inherently related to how you play off your team and just team play in general, because the information is what sets it up, and how you play for your teammates is what enables it. Again, we'll pull up this round that doesn't necessarily come from a gun round, but is a really good example of the players playing around mid and sort of covering Vexite into a position where he can play aggressive, look for the opportunity and the pick, whereas should it go wrong, Order is still in mid to retain the control. In the end, they of course don't actually need to help Vexite, and Vexite is again put into this situation similar to the round I last showed, where he is able to single-handedly go and infiltrate the enemy lines and go pushing, being aggressive, getting under the skin of the enemy. Here is the top-down view of that same round where we see Vexite is caught in mid with all this utility but is backed up by his teammates. Once it is sort of clear that there's not a lot of aggression coming in from mid, Vexite is going to continue pushing forward, whilst the rest of his team is going to continue playing the round in a very sensible way around the controlled aggression coming off of Vexite, combining the aspects of team play and aggression in order to give them a more favorable chance at winning a round. As we come to the end, the last rounds sort of display the team play coming together as a whole, alongside an example where control aggression might not necessarily be the answer, and I think gives a really good perspective on how Vexite can be a very complete player, particularly within the order system. Here on Nuke, we see that Vexite plays this almost anchor-like role, sometimes from the rafters and sometimes on the side. But on the CT side pistol, they push out very aggressively. He gets flashed off of his position. Rather than re-aggress, whilst in a man advantage with the 5v4, he waits. What waiting does is allow his team to take advantage of the fact that they're a man up. Instead of these other rounds where Vexite goes to single-handedly make the play, it's just more sensible to go into this situation with the man advantage, trade effectively, and win the round that way. While the rest of this round plays out, and you can see it in action, the final round that I'm about to show comes from Mirage, and I think incorporates almost everything I talk about with aggression, but more importantly the good positioning and the team play. This sort of comes together and shows how slippery Vexite can be. I actually believe seeing this round first in the 2D top-down is a more effective way to show you before you see it in the server. Ustilo and Vexite push up close after mollying off A main. This is an example of their team play. You'll see he actually is jumped up in a really good sort of off angle, whilst Ustilo and Rick are sort of covering all of the different spots. Rick watching towards Con, available to help Palace if Ustilo is overwhelmed. But Vexite again is sitting in this really good position, aggressive, but also based on what his teammates are doing around him. In a moment, after engaging with the player, you will see him fall back and his team react. Ustilo is there, immediately able to help, but fully aware of what's going on the other parts of the map, the two fall back and begin to play off one another. What follows is almost harmonic in how Vexite, Ustilo, and Rike sort of all work together to sort of lock down the three different parts of the site. Finally, this is the round once again, but in the servers, we see the early Molotov and utility come out. This is the aggression. Behind him, Ustilo is the teammate, working with him. Again, the aggression continues with this nice off-angle position for the player that we know will approach shortly. While simply waiting in this position, he knows that all the parts behind him, whether it's connector, palace, jungle, are all being watched by his teammates. And he knows that this position is aggressive and can catch out the enemy because he has not quite done it in such a way, particularly with this off angle. As we know, once this player is engaged, he sensibly will fall back, and this is where the rest of the round starts to unfold, deploying the utility, and now the team play is what kicks in. Ustilo, Rick, and Vexite all working together in a system. Altogether, this makes it so difficult for Silex to do anything on the map, because they're constantly having to watch their flank. Is Vexite going to be there? They're constantly having to watch in front of them. Is Vexite about to swing? Is he playing with his teammates? If we re-aggress to try and catch him, are his teammates simply going to kill us? In summary, Vexite is indeed an interesting player in how chaotic and aggressive he can be within the round. Order's belief and willingness to take the risk in these plays is reflected in the setups that we saw. It puts the opposing team in such a spot where they must be on notice for Vexite, whether it's in front or behind. But should they extend out to punish him, there might be an Order player waiting in open arms.